I'm in the woods today with our natural resource planner Kelsi Mottet, and we're going to be talking to you all about forest stewardship and some of the different ways that we at the district help forest landowners manage their forest properties, put their forest properties in the tax program designated forest land, and just generally learn how best to steward their forests.
As a sixth generation Whidbey Island resident, I love this place, and I've been able to be raised on stories and knowledge about the forest lands of our area. And one of the services as a forest planner that I can offer to landowners on Whidbey is the ability to walk their forests with them, answering their questions about, well, what happened here? What could I do in the future? How would I best manage my goals for wildlife habitat, timber management, recreation, and longevity and legacy? You may not believe this, but if you look around, over 80 years ago, this forest, it was a hayfield. Now, how would one know this? As a landowner, one of the best starting places for forest stewardship is getting to learn about the history of your land. So where do you begin? The first thing you can do is walk your woods, get to know it. What are you looking for? Things like this stump, evidence of past management by other people. You could also be looking at the tree species and types, because those reveal to you potentially what stage of succession that forest might be in. Although there are still several areas left on Whidbey Island whose forests remain untouched by human hands, the majority of our forest land that remains has been managed by people over the past century and even further. We had 3 major logging booms on this island since the 1930s for various reasons. But what's really interesting is as you walk your woods, you can actually see evidence of some of those different management periods. I challenge you to check out our historical mapping project. It's a resource online at the Conservation District website. It's a series of aerial photos from 1942, 1963, and 1990. Check those out around your area and see how has that landscape been changed over time. So once you get to know your property, how are you going to manage it? There's a lot of different things that you can do, and that's why we're here to help you. One of the biggest things I get asked by folks at the Conservation District is, how can I promote wildlife habitat in my forest? Well, the biggest thing I can encourage you to do is enhance what's already there. Value things like downed wood and snags. These are some of the best wildlife habitat. You can actually build wildlife habitat piles as a means to encourage different creatures to inhabit areas that once were quite open and more vulnerable to predators. Another best management practice that I encourage folks to think about is, how can they manage the distance between their existing trees? When we think about cutting trees, it's often met with a lot of fear, but oftentimes if you look at the woods like you do a garden, if trees get too close to one another, they start to compete for different resources, and every so often it is good to do a thinning to help encourage the growth of the trees you'd like to continue to see growing there. And of course, with thinning comes important times when we need to reforest areas. And so reforestation efforts are a big best management practice that you can think about for areas on your land that are in need. Between doing best management practices and getting to know your forest, there's also data collection and inventory. And there's a lot of different tools as forest planners that we can help you use and get to know. And one in particular is a favorite of mine. It was actually given to me by Ken Drexel, who many of you might have worked with. He is a former forest planner for our Conservation District and has had a history of forest planning in his career. This forestry stick is a tool that foresters use to measure a tree's stem diameter which essentially is the girth of the tree at a particular height known as chest or breast height, 4.5 feet above the ground. And what's cool about these forestry sticks is not only does it measure that, but it has a lot of different great calculation tools, essentially taking math and doing it for you so you don't have to do all of that out in the field. But that forest measuration data can then be used in helping create a forest stewardship plan for your property, where you can implement a lot of those best management practices based on the data you've collected.